All right, on this week of the winter meetings, today on the podcast, we have Jeff Francoeur, of course, 12-year Major League veteran. He is also a national analyst for FanDuel Sports Network and TBS, and he hosts the Pure Athlete podcast. He has David Wright on next Thursday, which is kind of cool. Hey, Frenchie, how you doing?
I am good. I'm good. I'm better than you. You're down in a mess down there. I'm in Atlanta. It is cold here in Atlanta, but the winter meetings is a little too crazy for me.
It is chaotic. And I know the times that you were traded mid-season. So like I don't know that your name was brought up too much or you worried too much during this time of year. But like as a player, what's this time of year like when it's kind of like, oh, your name is being thrown out there. You don't know what your future is going to look like.
I always tell players that they're smart. They will not be on social media. They will not look at any. Just let your agent call you and tell you, because I will tell you this, the first year I was ever traded at the trade deadline, like it can put you through hell. I mean, you're sitting there looking at all the rumors, Googling your name, seeing it, and it's like, it can mess with you. And so I tell people, like, at the end of the day, trust who you're going to trust, who's giving you the right info. And the rest is just white noise. Like, just let it go because there's going to be stuff I'm sure you're already down there hearing it that's like, really? That's going to happen? And it's like, no, no, that's not going to happen.
I do kind of like it, the fact that, it's this incredible billion-dollar industry. In the end, we're just gossiping in like this one
Uh-huh.
hotel in the middle of Orlando. Like, do you think he's gonna go there? And it starts percolating.
Absolutely. I always say where all the most of the deals get done, as my agent tells me, is about 10 o'clock at the hotel bar when people start getting a little loose after a long day. That's where deals get done.
I have often wondered that, like two or three martinis in, suddenly you're like, hey, maybe that's
Yeah,
not such a bad call.
absolutely. They'll tell you what you really want to know, a few of those in.
So, I mean, looking at just your career, when you're thinking about free agency, when you're looking for a landing spot, what were the things that you prioritized in terms of where you wanted to be?
Well, it's so crazy to me, right? Because we see it all the time, and I'm like, money's money. There's no doubt. And you have to have money to live. I think we all know that. Like, you got kids, you got whatever, like, you got to have money to support them. But I don't think people put an emphasis enough on winning, where you're happy, where you're excited to come to the park every day. Like, I played with numerous teammates that were miserable to come to the park. And it's like, man, you're getting to play this for a living. You're getting to put on a uniform every night, playing a big league stadium. Like, go where you're happy, And I remember my agent, and he was awesome. His name's Keith Grunwald, and he's a great buddy of mine. But like, I got done with 11 with Kansas City Royals, and I had probably my best season in the big leagues. And I had all my best friends there: Alex Gordon, Luke Kochaver, Moose and Haas, and these guys were coming up, Salvi Perez, and like, I loved being there. And so, Dayton Moore was the president, who absolutely loved that man. And so I remember calling my agent. I'm like, work it out with Kansas City. Like, let's get it done. And did I leave some money on the table? Possibly, from getting in a bidding war with whatever. But like, my wife and I were happy there. We had tons of friends. And I loved playing in the Midwest. People were actually normal. They were nice. And so I just think so many times, like, especially when you get to some of these guys where you're starting to get up to north of 100 million and all that, like, at some point, I think you want to go where you can win, where
Yeah.
you can be competitive every year, and where you have friends and you want to go to the park. I don't think guys think about that enough.
Yeah. It's interesting you talk about KC that way. That was the road city that surprised me the most. Because I was like, oh, like whatever. And I go there, I'm like, this place is awesome.
Man, the plaza, the downtown power and light district, like, and the
Cool.
fans, they're just, you have the Royals and you have the Chiefs, and they're right next to each other, and everybody loves it. And like I said, like, we lived in a neighborhood where, like, we were just, it was so great. Like, all our neighbors, like, when I was out of town, they invite my wife for dinner or take dinner over. Like, it's just, so like I said, I think for guys sometimes too, you got to find out, like, where am I going to be happy? Because I think we all know this. I have 4 kids, and I tell them all the time, when you're happy, you tend to play your best baseball, right?
Right.
Or softball or whatever it is. I just think it's simple.
So I know you're a college football fan. Are you a Chiefs fan too?
I'm not. No, I unfortunately I'm a Falcons fan, a
Oh.
long-suffering Falcons fan down here. We had our shot when we were up 28-3 in the Super Bowl about 10 years ago. But I've been with them from day one, so I'm never gonna leave them.
I 100% respect that.
Yeah.
Um, so I mean, I guess looking back a little bit at your major league career, I mean, I'm friends with Mike Puma, and he had mentioned a few stories. And the one thing that I'd wanted to ask you about was what's this thing with Carlos Beltran baking a cake?
It's probably my favorite story, honestly, in the big leagues. And Mike is one of the good ones, man. I say this all the time. So just to give some background, when I got traded from the Braves to the Mets, I was in Colorado. My wife and I were taking like a 7 o'clock flight at night to Newark, New Jersey. We landed at 1. We had a day game the next day, and it was like all of a sudden I'm in right field for the Mets, right? And growing up in Atlanta, you're supposed to hate the Mets, right? Like that's your
Right.
rival, especially in the 90s with all that stuff. So but Mike was one of the first guys I got to know, and I remember Tom Glavine said, "Get to know everybody's name in the media," and I did, and it was great. And did they have to write, tough things sometimes when I wasn't doing good? Sure, but so you get to know these people and you trust them. And I remember telling Mike the story was, when I came, Delgado, Reyes, Beltran, everybody was hurt. It seemed like the whole world was hurt, and so we're playing a game one night. And Beltran spent like 2 hours baking a cake during the game. And now he couldn't play. And Carlos was a great teammate, man. Like he would watch film with me. He would do this. So I'm not knocking. This is not knocking him at all. And by
Right.
the way, it was the greatest cake I've ever had. It was like a tres leches. It was unbelievable. But but Jeff Wilpon walks down after the game and basically like eighth inning and sees Carlos baking a cake. And dude, he flipped. He flipped the table of all the like candy and chips. And he was like, I'm not paying you effing 18 million bucks to bake a cake. Like you get in the training room and you get your butt back on the field. And I mean, dude, it was unbelievable. Like they went nuts. But when I tell you it was the greatest cake I've ever had, it was the greatest cake I've ever had.
I, I, yeah, I feel like stuff like that is also team bonding when you just see something so absurd.
Oh my gosh. And it was late in the year. We weren't
Yeah.
making the playoffs. And I just think, I'm sure it just caught Jeff in a bad moment, but it was like, we're paying you 18 million bucks to bake a cake, and I wanted to be like, that cake's worth every penny of 18 million bucks.
That's very fair.
Who's the best Met to use in the Immaculate Grid? Yourself, Bartolo Colon, or Carlos Beltran?
Man, I tell you what, all of us got it. Bartolo's always great. I love playing against Bartolo. Like when we just talked about people finding joy in the game and having
Mhm.
fun. Like that guy had fun all the time. And we actually, I said it like I remember when I played for the Mets and I talked to Mike Boom about this. It's so tough, right? Because of the media, because of the spotlight that you're under. I mean, look at the last 3 weeks with Lindor and Soto not liking each other, Mendoza coming out. There's all this noise all the time. And I always said, like, they need to get more guys in there like Bartolo, when I played there, like to find joy in the game that can bring fun to the clubhouse, fun to what you're doing. Because if not, man, it makes it a long season up there. And I noticed that last year. Like I think Carlos Mendoza is doing an unbelievable job. The times I get to talk with him, I've probably talked with him now, what, 20 times when we do the Tuesday night game of the week. We get to spend 15 minutes. And guys, I'll tell you, like whether they're winning 5 in a row or losing 5 in a row, he is the same guy every time I'm in there. So after this season, I was so glad they didn't get rid of him. I knew changes were coming, whether it was the staff, different guys coming in, but like he's the right man for that job. And I think he'll do a great job.
I've been really impressed with him too. Just like he's very, very steady in terms of whether they're riding high or they're going through a little bit of
You
slump.
have to have that. If you're going to play in New York, you have to have a steady hand, someone that doesn't just fly off the radar. That's why I love talking to Aaron Boone. No different than we're over at Yankee Stadium. And,
Right.
he's talking about, like we did the first Tuesday night game this year with the Yankees. So they were coming fresh off what was it? The torpedo
Oh, the
bats,
torpedo
right?
bats, yeah.
And Booney was just like, "Oh, I'm living it up in the media." So they're just getting all excited. I'm buying into this. You have to have guys that have personality and that can have some fun. And I think both those guys do a great job in New York.
You mentioned a little bit about the chemistry, and obviously there's been that narrative coming out now, and which it always comes out when teams are struggling, like, oh no, the chemistry.
Yeah.
Can that be an issue? Can that affect winning, or do you think that it can be overblown in the media?
No, I think it for sure can. I've always said this, like, bad chemistry can sink a team. There's no doubt. When you spend as much time as you do together, we used to joke like I spend more time with players and coaches than I did my wife. Like I did. Like you're there together all the time, whether it's on the plane, road trips, going to lunch on the road, different stuff like that. And so I do think team chemistry is a massive thing.
Mhm.
It can be overblown sometimes, like when you hear, oh, it's the best clubhouse. Yes, you still have to have talent. But if you have bad team chemistry, man, you can sink a team real quick.
Yeah, that is interesting because it's also, it feels like one of the hardest things to predict and to balance if you're a front office executive. And I don't necessarily know that front office executives these days are looking at it and in that context as much as they used to. It used to be like, oh, he's a really good clubhouse guy. You're not hearing that as much as you used to.
No, but I think you're going to see that change a little bit.
Really?
Like well, because I look out. I just did the Dodgers for the playoffs, right? And we got Otani, we got Freddie Freeman. And Dave Roberts talked about all the time? Miguel Rojas.
Hmm.
Kike Hernandez, right? Like glue guys. And that's what he said. He's like, all these other guys have these massive expectations. And all of a sudden I look, and Miguel Rojas is talking with Mookie Betts, giving him stuff like guys like that. Okay. So it might cost you an extra million or two. But when you have the stars that you have, and when you have those things, you have to have people that are able to relax them, to bring them down, to let them find the best versions of themselves to play great.
Yeah.
And so I always found it funny that right, we would try to talk and ask Dave about Mookie Betts and this, and it always came back to those other guys. And part of it was them helping, like Miguel Rojas, knowing I'm not going to play much, but I'm going to help Mookie Betts do everything he can to be the best shortstop. And so what happens? And it just laughs, right? Miguel Rojas hits the biggest home run of the year
Mhm.
for the Dodgers and keeps them in it, right? Like ninth inning and ties it up. And then they sign him back, for 5.5 million because there's value in that. And so I do GMs and presidents that do not think about that. I think it's a big mistake. I really do.
Right. I mean, you were definitely one of the glue guys in the clubhouse. Are there glue guys that you played with that you think about? You're like, okay, that guy really helped this clubhouse kind of stay afloat.
David Ross. David Ross was one of the best, man. I played with him in Atlanta, and then you look what he did in Chicago.
Hmm.
Was incredible. When I was with the Mets, Rod Barajas, man, Rod was awesome. Like we would play cards every day, me, him, David, Jason Bay, and he just was able to stabilize things, and there's not enough guys like that. And again, yes, you have to bring value. You have to be able to play. You have to be able to hit. Yeah, you got to do something. But I do think sometimes it's not as black and white as, hey, this guy can perform compared to, hey, what does this guy, and I even heard Alex Anthopoulos admit to me one time that when he was in Toronto, he did not have a guy or two like that in the clubhouse. And he's like, that hurt in 14, 15 when they were making that run. He's like, we did not have that guy that could relax people, could come around. And, like I said, look, go to Chicago, David Ross. Did he put up the big numbers? No. But, when it came to when Anthony Rizzo was struggling, when Chris Bryant was struggling, who did they go to? They went to David Ross.
Yeah.
There's a reason for that.
I mean, obviously we have a pretty New York heavy listenership. I mean,
Yeah.
in terms of your your assessment of the Mets last year, was there anything that you saw just like in covering them or in having been part of kind of like the major league zeitgeist where you're like, hey, you want to what? I think even though they have the talent, this might be one of the things that has sunk them.
I think the pitching early on in the season, was so good on paper. But I think if you really would have used the eye test and been like,
Right.
we're not going to be able to ride these guys all year. And so I look at the second half, and offensively, you were asking the Mets to score 7, 8, 9 runs a night. And it's just not sustainable, man. I don't care how good of players you have, how good a year Pete Alonso had. Like, you just can't do that. And then you mix in a few injuries here and there. So I just think at the end of the day, I mean, almost every Tuesday night I did the Mets game,
Hmm.
and we did 7 or 8. It was amazing. It was like by the fourth inning, the bullpen was warming up, right? And it just catches up with you over a long period of time. I mean, the Dodgers barely won the division because of how much they had to. Now, their starters got healthy at the postseason, right? And so they were able to do it. But you think about Singa, you think about Clay Holmes. My worry for Clay Holmes all year was you're asking that guy to go from throwing 60, 70 innings to throwing 180 innings, right? Singa struggled. Some of the other guys that they had just did not do what they wanted. So all of a sudden it was late in the season, right? And you're going into a big 3 or 4 game series and you don't know what you're going to get. And I thought that was the biggest downfall for the Mets. I thought offensively, if they got to the postseason, they could have scored off any pitcher. I think they, offensively were fine. But it's ultimately it's what got the Brewers right. When I did that Brewers Dodgers series, it was like outside of Freddie Peralta, they didn't know who the heck they were starting every game. And it's like you can't live that way. You can do it for a little bit, but for the most part, you can't get away with that.
Do you
It,
like the current playoff structure as it is with wild cards and the expanded playoffs?
You know, I would like to go back to 6 teams in each division in each league, but they're never going to do that because we know it's more money and TV and stuff. So you start to like that was the one thing, right? Like with baseball that I always thought was the coolest was you have to be good to get in the playoffs. If you're not getting in the playoffs with an 81-81 record, like in basketball, you see 4 or 5 teams get in with 500 or even a couple games below. Hockey, 16 teams get in, right? In the NFL, 14. Like I always thought the coolest thing about baseball was that you had to have a good year to get into the playoffs. Like you couldn't skate by and say this. And I just don't want to water it down. I know why we do it. I know the TV things. And as a player, all players hate the 1 game playoff, right? But as a broadcaster now, like, and someone that's on the other side, there's nothing more exciting than the 1 game wild card. Like, that was awesome to me. The ratings for it, the must see TV was incredible.
Yeah.
since
Wait,
you
wait, wait,
think,
wait, wait. Who's that behind you? The
wait, you
dog.
mean his own
Do you have a
jersey?
dog? Do you have a dog behind you?
Oh, yeah. But I got a dog behind me, my kids. Yeah.
Sorry,
He's
we're a
like a
huge
lab
dog
dog.
podcast. We love dogs.
Yeah. So I have a 20-pound King Charles named Murphy after Dale Murphy. And then you can't see him over there, but I had 100-pound English cream
Oh my
retriever, a
God.
beast.
That's amazing.
So yeah,
Those are
we're
big
big dog
boys.
people. Yeah,
Heavy
yeah,
boys.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean there was actually somebody behind you. I
No,
just meant
no.
that.
That's I was like, my
Yeah.
There's an intruder. It's a dog.
Yeah.
You've obviously covered a few playoff series. I mean, where did this one rank, just in terms both as a broadcaster and a former player?
well, the Phillies and Dodgers, I thought were the best 2 teams in the National League. And so, me and Brian Anderson were able to broadcast that game. And that was a 4 game series, but that was an unbelievable, like the pitching in that series was incredible, man. I sat out there and watched Christopher Sanchez, just light it up. I mean, he was doing things to Otani that we haven't seen any other pitcher be able to do. I mean, he was pounding him in. And the Brewers, it was so funny because like the Brewers put everything they had into that Cubs series, right? Like they beat the Cubs. It's like the redheaded stepchild. Like they were sick of the Cubs. They finally overcame the Cubs, and they just didn't have the pitching and the offense when it came down to where the Dodgers got hot at that time. I will tell you this though is one of the great World Series that I've seen in a long time. Thought it was incredible. Like the Blue Jays, man, you talk about showing up and showing out. Like I mean, they should have won it. Let's say what it was. Like they had every opportunity to win that World Series. And so it was awesome. I thought it was great for baseball. And it's even more of a reason that like I want to be like Players Association commissioner, like get your crap together. You have one
Right.
year to figure this thing out because the ratings for the postseason for baseball were off the charts. People were talking about it. It was awesome. And I'm like, let's not screw this up again, right? Like, let's not set this back.
Right. I mean, I guess talking about the threat of a work stoppage, obviously there's the idea of the salary cap and the salary floor. I mean, again, as a former player, how do you view something like that? I mean, do you feel like it is as inevitable as everyone seems to think it is?
Well, look, I know a lot of players and Tony Clark and them, and they do a great job, and I love those guys. But like this notion that you can never have a salary cap, like I kind of disagree with that. I think there can be parameters put in place, but what I would love is a salary floor. And I'm
Right.
sick of some of these teams spending 50, 60, 65 million. Pirates, right? Like, man, what a baseball rich town. You go to there, when people, I'm sure you've been there, like, they ask me, like, what's one of my favorite stadiums? I tell them Pittsburgh. Like, it's a
It's
gorgeous
beautiful.
stadium.
I
The
love it.
city with the backdrop, the Roberto Clemente Bridge, like these teams need to spend money. Like if you added $50 million to the Pirates this year with Skeens and the arms they have, you have a playoff team, and
Yeah.
that city would go nuts.
And it's so good for baseball. I mean, and you do see the the rumors of the Pirates are in on this guy and in on this guy, and then you see the numbers attached to it, and you're like, well, that's not realistic right there.
No,
So,
right? And like I saw that they made an offer to Kyle Schwarber, and
right.
like I love it, but I mean, do they have a chance, right? Like you're going to have the Mets, the Phillies bidding, and you're not going to be able to outbid. So my point is again, like I think there can be parameters put in to put a little bit of a ceiling on it. But if I'm players, right? If I'm us, I'm like, let's bust that floor up where you start to put pressure on the Pirates and some of these teams. Hey, you got to spend 50 more million or go sell your team.
Yeah.
Like let someone come in there that can put money into this team.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I saw that. It's like Pirates in on Kyle Schwarber, and I'm in on Sydney Sweeney, and those are just like the tweets. So just like everybody was
Yeah,
just like, oh, okay, great, you're interested in Kyle Schwarber.
I know.
So Jeff, we're gonna let you go. But I did want to ask you one question. It's on my mind. Do you have your Sports Illustrated cover, The Natural, framed anywhere?
I do. I do.
You too?
Actually, I have a big one down in the basement. I do. And funny enough, so I'm in my office and like you can see right here, like I got five of these sent to me this week and
Awesome.
to sign. And like, so, it's one of the cool things. You still go back and you pinch yourself because you're like, growing up, Sports Illustrated was everything, right?
Right.
Like that was the first. I always say, like, I would go to the mailbox and just like you knew when it was coming. We were going to read it top to bottom. I always say the only one when the swimsuit issue, my mom would always take it, not let me and my brother look at it, which was a buzzkill back then. But we eventually found a way. But like, yeah, that's a cool moment because I think even my kids sometimes are like, what is Sports Illustrated? Like, and I'm like, it was a big deal back then, guys.
I
Like,
I
Oh
feel like I
yeah,
wish it still
yeah,
was. I mean,
yeah.
and to
SI,
a degree.
SI, SI. Uh, batting 350 and then a 1.197 OPS. Is that you or Roy Hobbs?
shoot. No, I know this. I that every ball I hit to start my career, the duck farts, the line drives, they all found holes. It was incredible. It was like, and I remember even thinking like, is this what it's going to do? But I did get humble pie because I tell the story the day that came out. We were playing cards at Wrigley Field, and our PR guy all of a sudden comes over my head and drops about 40 of the Sports Illustrated covers. So you can imagine I'm 21 years old. Chipper, Smoltzy, uh, Andrew. I mean, they started ragging me because none of them had ever been on the cover, right? And so, like, well, that night I faced Carlos Zambrano for the first time in my first game at Wrigley Field, and I went 0 for 3 with three strikeouts on nine pitches. Literally,
Ooh.
he mowed me down. And so I come in after the game, and those guys in like the eighth inning, Tim Hudson went and hung all the Sports Illustrateds by the showers in the bathrooms, and I was like, it was a dose of reality real quick on how hard the game of baseball is.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's hilarious though. I'll let you. Well, yeah, one last question, I guess. We talked about PNC Park. What are I mean, other like ballparks that you love to travel to over the course of your career or today?
City Field's one of my favorite. If we want to talk about New York, like they did an absolute unbelievable job when they did City Field. And I remember the first time going there in '09 because like what I played at Shea for 4 years. And the one thing with Shea that was cool was when you were in that bowl, man, it got loud. And I remember thinking like, man, I wonder how this is going to be. It's like Yankee Stadium's great, it will never be the old Yankee Stadium, right?
Mhm.
Like you don't get that feel. It's a little more corporate, which I totally understand. You got to pay for that stuff. It is. But like I go to City Field and it is a great atmosphere. I love going there. It's great. Wrigley Field for a day game in Chicago in the summer is my favorite city there is. Like there's not much better than that. And I will tell you this, a lot of people don't ever go out there, but you go out to Seattle during the summer. Man, it is a cool
I love,
town when you're
yeah.
looking down at the bay and like it's unbelievable. And in the visiting clubhouse, they have the best ice cream machine going in baseball.
Better than
So,
Philly?
well, so Philly is Frank in the press box, right? You're
Uh,
not getting that down there. So
oh,
two
you're
scoop,
not?
not down there. Now
No.
they have the cheesesteaks. You can't have cheesesteaks and ice cream. Guys would leave there 400 pounds, right? Like you'd
Oh
leave
my
there and you wouldn't
God.
even be able to play. But I always say, and you know, the cool thing about City Field too, that I was talking about New York, is they have the best workers there. Like the
They're great.
security people, the whatever. Like I was there in 9 and 10, and I still come back now, 15 years later, and they ask how Katie, my wife's doing. They ask how
Wow.
like my kids. It's incredible, and I always tell that to people. Like I go to City Field, I felt welcome every time, whether it's going up in the press box, whether it's seeing Big Dom down below keeping
Oh, yeah, I
things.
love Big Dom.
Dom's my guy. Like if I ever got in a pinch, Dom would be the first person I called if I needed something. But like that's what they do. They make you feel wanted. And I've always said it like they do the best job there.
Yep. And just so we know, reports Edwin Diaz going to the
Yeah.
Dodgers, Kyle Schwarber going back to the Phillies.
I
So,
figured if you're Philly, right, you can't let Schwarber go. Like you
no.
couldn't, and especially to the Mets or somebody like that. And look, don't get me wrong. I think Edwin Diaz is unbelievable. I mean, he was as I think the best closer in baseball last year. Like he was locked down as he could get. But I also think the Mets have ability to spend money in some other areas because I just think starting pitching, they got to go get one or two more horses. If they get
They
that
do.
with who they have in that lineup, I think they're gonna be really, really good.
I wonder if this frees up some money now for Pete Alonso if he'll come back. That might be interesting.
And you could, and I've said this, like if he doesn't get the 4 or 5 year deal, like what's wrong with giving him 2 years, 60, 65 million? Like God knows he's earned it. He's durable. He does it. So that's what I always said. Like you asked me about being a GM, like down at the winter meetings. And I remember talking to Alex Anthopoulos about this. He's like, I'd always have less years and overpay players. So
Yes.
if things do go wrong, it's coming off the books in another year or two. But like these 10, 12 year deals, like man, they get trapped in that. And it's like, that's
They
a
do not
lot.
age. Yeah, they do not age well.
They don't age well. I mean, look at the Angels. It's a perfect example. It has set that organization back. The Red Sox for a while with Pablo Sandoval, some of these guys, it set them back for a while.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
it's,
Sandoval. God.
Yeah.
yeah, Kung Fu
Now everyone
Panda,
knows.
baby.
Yeah,
Kung
yeah,
Fu.
yeah. For real, I forgot that he was even on
Yeah,
Boston.
and remember, he had a weight clause. Remember, that's one of the great all
That's
time
right.
The
things.
busted
Like,
belt, the busted
can you,
belt. That was a
can
big
you,
thing.
can you imagine like you got to go weigh yourself and then if I weigh this I'm getting my paycheck, like that's hilarious.
Oh
Oh man,
man. I'd
wow.
be doing like a water diet for 2 days. Like, I can't do
Oh, no doubt. Lose weight like those wrestlers do. You're
it.
just
100%.
3 days of cutting weight, and then that night after you weigh, get room service and get all the hot fudge sundaes you want.
Are
That was
you
the thing,
kidding me?
right? He was at bat and he swung and his belt like
Yeah,
broke. Ugh.
yeah,
My guy.
yeah.
On imagine doing that on TV.
Okay, you ain't lying. Whew.
Well, Frenchie, thank you so much for your time. This is awesome. I really, really appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely. And tell Mike down there I said hi. Hi. Keep an eye on him. Don't let him work too hard. Make sure
I
he get
will.
he gets a meal in.
You want to know what? Every once in a while, we'll go out for margaritas. That's our thing. We'll go out for
Oh,
margaritas after the game, and that's our favorite thing to do.
yeah. That's well. Maybe when I'm up there, we'll do espresso martini. That's my drink of choice.
Perfect. That sounds great. Thanks
Thanks,
so much.
guys.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Take care.